The success didn't matter. Countdown to Extinction was double platinum. That didn't matter. I had the house, I had the wife, I had the kid, I had everything. But I had nothing because I was still comparing myself to my previous band.
Hello, me. Meet the real me. And my misfits way of life.
It's like you pull up to a stoplight, you know, and you have your own car, and so do they. They're both Mercedes, but yours says smaller number. I mean, it's like, you know, there's still that penis envy.
I witnessed that anger, you know, at the point where Dave had sold millions of records and had millions of adoring fans. He was still angry. He still was motivated by revenge.
You could see the decline of Dave slipping back into the old stuff again and getting high. And it was weird because, I mean, we were at the pinnacle of our career at that point. We were playing arenas, and it was big.
Megadeth was, in fact, at the height of their popularity. And in February '93, they were booked to play the world-renowned Budokan Arena in Tokyo, Japan.
It was like, yeah, Budokan's ready for you. And I was like, this is great. This is better than being on the top of the charts, you know, Cheap Trick at Budokan, Megadeth at Budokan. We're here.
We were all kind of fragmenting a little bit because success was coming our way, and we're all starting to make a little bit of money. Just everything that would pull us apart.
On February 17th, just days before they were to leave for Tokyo, Megadeth played a show in Eugene, Oregon. Dave was a disaster.
Dave was intoxicated. I was like, oh man, this is horrible. This sucks. And finally, it was almost like an act of God. The barricade down in front of the stage broke. And it was just like a big pop.
Last thing I remember, I incited a riot. Somehow, the barricade broke. Everybody rushed to the stage.
We were like, we're out of here. That's it. Let's go.
But as soon as Dave left the venue, he swallowed a handful of Valium pills. And by the time he was hustled to an emergency room, he was rambling incoherently.
I was covered in sweat and piss and everything. They got me into pajamas, and then I died. They took me to an emergency room, and I was dead.
Dave was resuscitated at the hospital. When he regained consciousness, he was moved to the Meadows, a rehab center in Phoenix, Arizona.
Dave called us all and wanted us all to come out for a family week there. Here comes Megadeth marching in, you know, the counselors and people that Dave were working with. He said, look, you can't go on the road. If you go on the road too soon, it's going to be all over. We had to really just stop and just go, wow. I mean, Dave was almost a goner. If we would have continued on the road, it probably would have been one of those stories where rock star found dead in a hotel room.
My prayers are never answered.
The dream of playing Budokan was over. The trip was canceled.
It wasn't like, dude, I want to take this away from you guys. I want to deprive you of this cool chance. It happened, and I just felt bad to see him go through it. God, you know. It was, that for me is probably, in the whole time of Megadeth, the most disappointing moment.
I never wanted to shake him. I wanted to hold him. The thing about metal, the image of metal was, you know, a bunch of tough guys playing this really heavy music. So I didn't need to shake him and ask why. I understood why. I understood Dave.
After rehab, Dave tried to live his life by new rules, including group therapy sessions scheduled around rehearsals.
Now we're like, oh, and after rehearsal, we're going to have to go over to a group therapy meeting. And, huh? That's so on rock and roll. What is this all about?
It was the most excruciating thing. You know, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to people that I'm basically paying their mortgage. I'm feeding them and their families, tell me that I'm a bad guy. It was like having your butt hairs pulled out very slowly.
Attempting to stay clean, Dave no longer tolerated any drug use by his bandmates. So when he suspected Nick Menza was intoxicated, Dave snapped.
We had talked to our tour manager, and he said, Nick, I want you to give me a urine test. And he said no, and I quit. And this is right before the concert. I had a hold of Nick's throat. We were in the lobby of a hotel in London, and I was ready to kill him. I figured if I couldn't punch him in the face, I'd rip his throat out. You know what? He's messing with my bread and butter. I mean, he's affecting my income, which is messing around with my family, and, you know, I had it.
Although intolerant of drug use within his own band, it wasn't long before Dave was back to battling his old demons. But in the summer of '93, he sobered up long enough to take part in a classic concert bill. In a series of European shows, Megadeth opened for Metallica, a once-in-a-lifetime battle of the bands.
We had pretty much avoided it just because of the competition, and at that point we finally welcomed it. You know, said let's see who's got the cojones now and who's gonna rule the stage.
Of course, it was something that had been talked about for years. You know, would Metallica and Megadeth ever share a stage together?
To get a chance to play with them again, some way down the line, in some way, would be awesome.
It was the first time that Metallica had acknowledged that Megadeth were, you know, worthy enough.
It could have been a real big nightmare, but it turned out to be so cool.
It was awesome that it happened, and in some way, I think it kind of broke the ice.
Unaware of Mustaine's recent drug overdose, his former bandmates greeted him with a grim practical joke.
Clearly, we were sitting in the dressing room, we came in really meekly to sort of say hello, and you were like over in the corner, like laying out lines made of, like, you know, sugar or something.
Yeah, we wound them up pretty good.
Right.
And,
So
you know,
nasty.
it was pretty, it could have been pretty evil. You know, we had no idea where his personality was at that point, but it was evil, you know. Hopefully, you know, he took that as a funny thing.